Welcome to Moments with Marianne. This is your host, Marianne Pastana, and we're here today with special guest, Kathleen Peddicord, who's here to share with us how to live and invest overseas. So have you ever wanted to live in another country, but you have no idea where to start? Well, today's guest is going to share with us how to do just that. Known as the world's foremost authority on international living and retirement, and founder of Live and Invest Overseas, Kathleen Peddicord has been exploring the world for more than 30 years. In total, she has traveled to more than 70 plus countries, invested in real estate in 24, established businesses in 7, and renovated properties in 6. She is interviewed and quoted regularly by the New York Times, Money Magazine, CNN, and beyond. So let's welcome to the show, Kathleen Peddicord.
Hello, Marianne. It's great to be here. Thank you.
My goodness, what an honor it is to have you here and to talk about this. How did you even get interested in this type of work?
It was completely accidental and organic is the honest answer. I didn't set out to do anything like what I'm doing at this stage, never could have imagined it. What I'm doing, when I started out, I've been in this industry, in this business for 40 years. When I started out, this industry didn't really exist. So I started out wanting to be a writer. That was my goal in life, really, from the 6th grade, I think, is when I realized I wanted to be a writer. I was an English literature major in college. I focused on writing. That was my whole world, my whole approach to life. When I graduated, though, from college, I was living in Baltimore, Maryland, and there is not much of a publishing industry in Baltimore, Maryland. I don't know if you know it, but it's a smallish town. And I was engaged to be married to someone. I had a very serious relationship, so I didn't want to leave Baltimore. So I took the only job in publishing that I could get at the time. It was as a junior copy editor, lowest rung on the publishing ladder. But I was happy to be working in publishing at all. What I didn't realize is that the company I landed with completely accidentally was owned and run by a man who had a big interest in the world, is the best way to put it. A big interest in global expansion and diversification before that was a thing. This is going back 40 years ago. And I had never traveled to that point. I'd been outside the States once for spring break to Bermuda. I had never really thought about it. But my boss at the time, who became my mentor and eventually my partner and is still a very good friend, he opened up that world to me, this world of living and investing overseas, which I had never thought about. And he was building a publishing business based on those ideas, everything that he published, and therefore that I was editing, at first copy editing, was to do with these ideas of spending time and money in other parts of the world. It was like the sky opening and the sun coming out for me. I had never encountered these ideas before, but I was now immersed in them all day long and editing copy from writers and travelers who were having these most amazing, interesting experiences all over the world, sending back their copy to us. And I was editing it. So in this very, again, organic way, I was being introduced to these ideas that I found immediately interesting. I was just instinctively drawn to all these ideas and opportunities. And that's how I got where I am today, just year after year, growing up in that business. I was with that company for 23 years and then left to start my own business, Live and Invest Overseas, but pursuing the same ideas.
How exciting is that? It seems like you were at the right place at the right time for your career to take off the way that it really has.
It was, I couldn't have, in the end, asked for a better situation. I will say that not only was it accidental, but it was underappreciated by me in the beginning. I wasn't, I was thrilled to be in publishing, but copy editing all day wasn't all that exciting. But now looking back, I see what a great foundation I got in writing and editing and in these ideas of living, investing overseas.
So when we talk about retiring overseas, I mean, what does that look like? Is that I think a lot of times people don't even know if that's something that's possible for them.
Well, that's the thing. It can seem like a big, intimidating idea, can be kind of scary. So I recommend always taking this very slowly if it's a big new idea for you, but if it catches your attention, if there's something about it that sparks your imagination and you think, wow, I could retire to France, or wow, I could retire to a Caribbean beach. You really could, but there's a long way from here to there. And the truth is this isn't for everyone because the idea of retiring to another country, to a sandy beach in the Caribbean or to an old world city or coastal town on the Mediterranean. So many versions of this can be so appealing, and they are. But getting there, creating a life in this new place takes work. And so I recommend always start with the fun, sexy part, which is the where. And imagine if I could live anywhere, if I could retire anywhere, where would I go? And one way I recommend people to focus this very fun part of the conversation, which is part one, is to think about if you could have any view outside your bedroom window every morning when you woke up, what would you like that view to be? Because there's somewhere in the world where you could have it. Then follow that thread and begin to drill down to all of the less fun, less sexy, but very important aspects of this, things to do with residency permits and setting up a bank account and putting together a budget and planning for health care and health insurance and taxes. What will the impact be on your tax situation? Those are not nearly as fun, but they're very important, of course. So let yourself enjoy the fun and let that part evolve slowly, step by step. And if this idea continues to hold your interest over some time, then dig into the less fun part. And then the main thing you need to do to find out if this could really be for you is to get on a plane. A place can be irresistible when you're reading about it on the internet. And you can even do a lot of research and put together a plan on paper for moving there and launching a new life there. And it can all make sense on paper. And then you show up and realize, oh, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. I don't understand this place. I don't feel comfortable here. Why do the people do what they do here? Why are they living the way they're living here? I don't think I fit here. And that's fair enough, and that's fine. And that doesn't mean that the whole big idea doesn't make sense for you, but maybe that place doesn't make sense. So again, you want to take it step by step.
So you mentioned there are 3 steps and we talked about 1. What are the other 2?
So one is thinking about where, right? That's the big fun part. Two is making the plan, which is where you dig into the practicalities, all the administration. We all are aware of the administration that goes into managing a life. When we're 15 or 16 years old, we get a driver's license. When we're a little older, we open our first bank account, get our first credit card. And then when we graduate college, we rent an apartment and then eventually buy a house. We buy a car, which means you need car insurance and on and on, all those administrative aspects to, just having a life. The thing you have to realize about part two of launching a new life in a new country is that you have to address them all at once. So while you put together the administration of a life in your hometown over years or decades, suddenly now you're doing it all in one go, in one fell swoop, in a foreign country where the culture is different and the language is probably different. And so, you're not only getting a driver's license again, but you're getting a driver's license in a place where the language is Spanish or French or Portuguese, for example. You're not only thinking about renting or buying a house, but you're doing that in a place where all the listings are going to be in another language. The contract, the rental agreement is going to be in another language, et cetera. So that's part two. And that part takes some planning and preparation. And this is what we spend a lot of time on in our various publications. And, our conferences, we put on a dozen conferences a year, and some of these are focused on specific countries. And so we'll really drill down. If you were going to move somewhere in Panama, say, or Portugal, how would you address all of these administrative functions? So that's step two, making a plan. And then step three is showing up. And that sounds much simpler, and it sounds deceptively simple. Woody Allen is famously known for saying 80% of life is showing up. And that is true, I think, in all aspects of life, including launching a new one in another country. So the final step is showing up, but then that triggers a lot of things that follow. So you've made a plan. Now you're showing up in the place and you need to execute that plan. So you need to sign a rental, find a place you want to rent, work with an attorney on an agreement, and then sign a rental agreement. Or even a little more intimidating and requiring a greater level of commitment, sign a purchase agreement for a home of your own. You need to learn a new language. If you're moving to a country where the language isn't English, you need to learn at least a little of the local language, and that takes effort. It won't happen by osmosis. You won't just pick up the language as you go. You'll have to work at it. You need to make friends. And like a language, you won't just make friends as you go. You'll have to put yourself out there and make an effort. So you need to rebuild your life, from top to bottom, in a new place, again, where the culture is different, the day-to-day traditions and norms are different, and the language can be a barrier.
Well, on that note, we're going to pause here for a quick break. You've been listening to Moments with Marianne. We'll be right back after these messages from our sponsors.
Have you dreamt of writing your own book but felt lost on where to start? Introducing DIYbook.us, your personal guide to bringing stories to life. Whether it's your life story, business insights, or unique experiences, DIYbook.us makes it easy and affordable. With our step-by-step online program, you'll receive a weekly email prompt tailored to you. Don't let your story go untold. Visit www.diybook.us and start your writing journey today with our free 7-day trial. DIYbook.us, where your story comes to life.
Are you a coffee lover who wants to make a difference? Look no further than Fire Department Coffee, a veteran-owned business that gives back to support first responders in need. Each batch of coffee is freshly roasted right here in the USA by a dedicated team of first responders and coffee experts. So when you enjoy a cup of Fire Department coffee, you're not only drinking high-quality coffee, you're supporting members of your community. Start your day with a coffee that gives back. Visit firedepartmentcoffee.com. That's fire, D-E-P-T, coffee.com.
It's one thing to become attached to your perfect home, but what do you do when that home becomes attached to you? A family in dire need of a fresh start, a mysterious house tied to the past. Buried deep within the foundation of the old Far Hill Manor lies a centuries-old secret. Dark forces or something stronger just waiting to be discovered. Caretaker, a supernatural thriller by breakout authors R.J. Halpert.
Internationally recognized and award-winning author Judy Goodman works and teaches outside the box of limited thinking. Working with people from every walk of life, her goal is to empower you to be the best you can be, no matter what the challenge is. Born with the gift of seeing beyond our normal vision, she has an extraordinary gift of working with every challenge. Teaching beyond conventional wisdom, her work is described as life-changing. Visit judygoodman.com. That's judygoodman.com.
I'd like to thank Jason Eastwood at Guitarfulness for sharing his inspiring music and talent with us. His music is known worldwide for cultivating atmospheres of harmony, inner peace, and clarity. Visit Jason's website at guitarfulness.com. Join his newsletter, be part of his community, and download his music. Welcome back to Moments with Marianne. We're here today with special guest Kathleen Peddicord, who's here sharing with us how to live and invest overseas. What are some of the top places that we should have on our radar for moving to this year? I know a lot of people are going, gosh, this sounds great. I think that I need to make a move.
Well, we publish every year a list of our top picks for that year. And number one on our list this year is Valencia, Spain. And Spain has so much to recommend it. It's the best of the old world. People thinking about this idea of moving to another country, it's probably most common these days in retirement, but more and more young people are doing it younger, including with children still in school, et cetera. So thinking at any age of moving to another country, the world breaks down it really into four big spheres. One is Asia, which is far away and very exotic, and does this is complicated no matter where you go. Even if you retire to Mexico, which is probably in many ways the easiest place to think about doing this. It's just right there. After all, it's just right down there below you. If you're in the United States, if you're in California, you could drive to your new home on the Pacific coast of Mexico and drive back and forth, as many people do. So Asia, on the other hand, is far away, is much more exotic culturally, and the language barrier would be greater. The challenges, the hurdles would be greater in all regards, including travel back and forth, say, to visit family, grandchildren back home. If you want to stay in touch, you're not coming for a birthday or a weekend visit if you move to Malaysia or Thailand. So that's Asia. Then there's the old world, Europe. And for many, that's all their dream is about. It's about, afternoons in walking cobblestone courtyards and then taking a break at an outdoor cafe and having a glass of wine and watching the passersby. And that way of life has so much to recommend it. Then there's the Americas, which is typically, we're talking about the developing world, very different from Europe, and for some people, the developing world is interesting because it's more of a it's less molded, it's less refined, it's less finished, it's a little more rough around the edges, and that can be fun and full of adventure. Some people aren't up for a new life in the developing world, and some people would have it no other way than to go to a place that's still figuring itself out, as is the case, say, in Panama or Belize or Colombia, which are top choices in the Americas. The fourth big picture choice would be the Caribbean. And for some people, the Caribbean is their dream. Period. They want to retire to a white sand beach and spend their days on the water. Okay, if your choice among those four big picture options, if your dream is the old world, I would put Spain again at the top of the list. It is the best of the old world, the best of continental living, and much more affordable than most of the rest of Europe right now. For years, Portugal, in fact, for the past 8 years, we have named Portugal as the best place to retire in Europe and indeed the world. But Portugal has grown more expensive really because it's become so popular, because so many people have taken our advice and the advice of others who have recognized all that Portugal has to offer. And crowds come and prices go up, especially for real estate. There was just such a greater demand for a limited supply of property in the most appealing places to be along Portugal's Algarve coast, for example, that prices have risen. And so that is a big reason why this year Spain kind of overtook Portugal. And we focused in Spain on Valencia, which is it's a fully fledged old world cosmopolitan city with the cafe culture that so many are looking for, and museums and galleries and the whole picture of culture in the old world that many people might have in mind. Plus, it's on the Mediterranean Sea, so it's the best of an old world city, and then the dream of life on the Mediterranean coast of Europe. So I'd put Valencia at the top of your list if you're thinking about life in the old world. If you're interested more in life in the new world, in the developing world, which has a few key advantages. One is it's very nearby. Again, Mexico, you could drive to. Belize, you could drive to. It's also sunny most of the year, great weather year round in the tropics. It can be too hot for some, but you're going to get a lot of sunshine. And for a lot of people at this phase of life, one important factor is they don't want snow anymore. They want to walk away from winter for good. And you definitely can do that in Central America. And then a third big advantage of that region is the cost. It's it's very affordable. So a retiree with nothing more than a Social Security check each month can retire very well, and has lots of really appealing lifestyle options across Central America. In that region, I would put Panama, Belize, and Colombia, which is not Central America, but South America, at the top of the list. And then in the Caribbean, I would highlight the Dominican Republic because, and this is a personal prejudice, islands, the idea of island living is a dream. It's a fantasy. But some islands in the Caribbean are very small, and you can find, I think, quickly that life there becomes limited. Life will feel limited after even a little while. The Dominican Republic is bigger than most Caribbean islands, but it's got everything that you look for in quintessential Caribbean lifestyle: the white sand, the palm trees, the outdoor lifestyle, the sun year round, all the water sports, snorkeling, diving, all of that. But it's also got, especially in certain parts of the coast of the Dominican Republic, especially one beach town in particular called Las Terrenas, it has some European undertones. Las Terrenas has been, over the past 40 years or so, settled by Europeans, especially French. And so you'll hear French spoken on the streets. Signs are in French sometimes. People kiss on both cheeks in greeting. There are lots of bakeries. You'll see French baguette everywhere. So it's a little more interesting, and I think therefore it can make sense as a longer term Caribbean choice. Whereas some of the smaller Caribbean islands you might think of first, great for a vacation, wonderful places to hang out, decompress, unplug. But when you're thinking of being there longer term, I think that you might feel like your lifestyle has become a little limited.
Sounds so exciting, especially when you look at so many people are looking for places that they can retire and retire well in. And to hear you can do that on a Social Security check, I think is exciting for a lot of people.
Well, for sure. And I would say that for many, in fact, historically, for most people who come to this idea, who come in contact with this idea of retiring overseas, it starts because of budget. Because the unfortunate reality is that so many Americans are, nearing or even in retirement and realizing they don't have enough to live a reasonable retirement lifestyle. They definitely don't have enough. They're finding out very much, to their disappointment, they don't have enough to live a really interesting, fulfilling retirement lifestyle. They may have enough to get by, but at this stage of life, you sure would like to think there's more to it than just getting by. And I like to think of retiring overseas as a chance to retire up, no matter what your budget is. If your budget is very small, if all you have is your Social Security check, right now, the average Social Security check is about $1,500 a month. If that's what you have to work with, you have a lot of really good options across the Americas and the Caribbean and maybe even Europe. Although there, with a very limited dollar-based budget, currency exchange becomes a concern, because if you find a place where you can live a comfortable lifestyle on what your budget is right now, but only just, your budget is right there, to the dollar. Well, if the euro dollar exchange rate moves against you, you can find yourself in trouble. So we really recommend, if you're going to make a move to a place where the currency is something other than the US dollar, leave a cushion in your budget for if the currency moves against you. But again, going back to the real point, which is, even if you have a small budget to work with, you have so many options for where you could live a much bigger, richer lifestyle. And if you've got a bigger budget to start with, if you've got $2,500, $3,000 a month, which isn't a huge budget, it's more than a lot of people have, but it's not a Rockefeller budget. But if you've got that level of retirement nest egg, you really could live very well, a really rich retirement across the world, including in Europe.
Well, I think that that's so exciting. And there are a lot of people that are looking to make these types of moves. So for those that are going, okay, I think that moving overseas or to another country is exactly what I want to do, where would they start?
Start with research. And the thing is, I've been covering this beat for so long, 40 years, which is getting to the point where I don't even like to admit it. But for so long, I've been researching, writing about, and for 26 years now, living this lifestyle myself. I left the States 26 years ago, moved to Ireland for 7 years, then to Paris full-time for 4 years, then to Panama for about 12 years. And the past few years have been dividing time, but my husband and I, since our youngest child graduated college, dividing our time between Paris and Panama. So I have a lot of experience at this firsthand, that I can speak from that experience to say it's so much easier to do this today than it used to be. When we moved to Ireland, more than 2.5 decades ago, I found a company, an international shipping company, by opening up the Yellow Pages, the Baltimore Yellow Pages. And that was a process that took many, many weeks. Today, if you decide you want to make a move and you figure out where you want to go, and you decide you want to take your household belongings with you, which is one of the big administrative questions you need to address. What are you going to take with you, and how are you going to manage, furnishing your new home, setting up your new life? If you decide you're going to ship your belongings, as I've done now a few times from one country to another, you just go online. There are websites where you just type in where you're moving from and where you're going to, and give them a quick inventory, casual inventory, and that goes out. These are kind of brokerage houses online that goes out to international shipping companies all around the world, and they'll bid for the job. So within 24, 48 hours, you can have bids from 2 or 3 or 4 companies who are interested in shipping your container for you. Come pack your stuff and ship it. It's so much easier in every way thanks to the internet, and then all other manner of options for staying in touch. First of all, for getting in touch, reaching out to connect with people in the place where you're thinking about moving, where you want to research and consider your options, look at what your life might be like there. And then once you find your place where you want to go and make your move, for staying in touch with the place where you just left. So today you can do that free. When we moved again to Ireland, if we wanted to talk to, my mother and my sister back in Baltimore, it was an international phone call. So that was a big part of our budget was telecommunications. Today, with Skype and WhatsApp and many, many other apps like along those lines, voice over internet protocol systems, options, that you can stay in touch in real time with people all around the world free. So you start, to get back to your specific question, you start by researching. And again, this is so really relatively easy today. You go online, you go to Google, and you type in retire overseas, or retire to Portugal, retire to Panama, retire to Argentina. And you will come in contact with hundreds of resources. The thing to keep in mind is that because it is so easy these days to publish on the internet, that you want to take time to look at, many different options, because everyone has their perspective, and you want as many perspectives as possible. You want to factor in as many different experiences as possible, which is one important thing we try to do at our conferences. Our conferences are built around panel discussions, because you do all this research online and you'll connect with lots and lots of people, including expats who've already made moves to the places you're considering. But then you need to go and again, it's a version of showing up. You need to show up not only in the place that you're thinking about going to try it on for size, go for 2 or 3 or 4 weeks, whatever your current circumstances will allow. Try it on for size. Imagine that you're living there. Don't try not to be a tourist. Try to experience the place as a resident. What would your life be like if you were living there? And then you want to connect. You want to not only try the place on for size, but you want to connect with the local expat community, with other expats who've already made a move and ask them, very pointed questions. What was the hardest part about the move? What do they like least about their new life? What do they miss most from their old life? And again, this is something we've spent a lot of time on at our conferences, because we'll bring together dozens of expats into a room, and we try hard to provide as much perspective, as many different perspectives and voices of experience as we can to help someone think this through from all angles, before you make that, before you make a commitment to a particular place.
And so, if people are looking to invest overseas, what does that look like?
Well, that is a kind of a separate side of the business, and we focus on real estate. That's our primary conversation in the context of investing overseas, and in the context of buying real estate overseas, we look at it from both angles, both sides. If you're going to move to another country to retire there or to live there at any stage, you need a place to live. We say rent first. Give yourself a chance to try the place on for size, make sure it's a fit before you commit to buying a home of your own. But if you're buying for your personal use as a place to live, that's one conversation. It's a very different conversation if you're looking to buy real estate overseas for investment. We talk about buying property, all aspects of what we do we talk about there's a fun aspect and a profit aspect, profit potential anyway. And the best case is when you can marry those two things. So if you can find a place, an apartment, for example, that could work well as a rental unit on a Caribbean beach or in a European capital city that has great rental market, that's in a place where you want to be able to spend time, investing in a rental there can help you rationalize visiting and returning again and again regularly to a place you really want to be able to spend time as often as possible, while making some money, generating cash flow in another currency potentially. So you're diversifying market, an economy, you're diversifying out of the US dollar. And you're diversifying your lifestyle, because making an investment in another country will necessarily make changes to your lifestyle as well. If you buy a rental property or a piece of property for any reason in another country, you'll need at least now and then to go visit it, check on it. If you have a rental manager, you want to go meet with them. If you have a property manager, a caretaker, you want to go and check up on them at least once a year, say. And so that, I think, makes your life richer. It adds a new angle, a new dimension to your lifestyle, while potentially generating cash flow, maybe in another currency, and maybe allowing you to bank appreciation. There are a number of markets right now around the world that are seeing very fast rates of capital appreciation.
Well, Kathleen, you're such a great resource when it comes to live and invest overseas. Where can our listeners connect with you and learn more about your work and how to be part of this great adventure?
I would say start at our website. It's liveandinvestoverseas.com. And then when you go to the website, poke around. There's lots of free content there to take a look, just see what aspect of this might interest you, if any. But while you're there, sign up for our daily e-letter. It's free, comes out 7 days a week from me. It's called the Overseas Opportunity Letter. I put it together from wherever in the world I am, and it covers everything we've talked about today and a whole lot more. It covers all aspects of living, retiring, investing overseas, and all the whole globe. So we look at all the different regions I mentioned: Europe, the Americas, the Caribbean, and Asia. And opt into it, and you'll start hearing from me every day. And little by little, again, to come back to where we started, the best way to proceed at this is organically, step by step. And this e-letter, the Overseas Opportunity Letter, will allow you to do that. Some days you might not have time to read it at all, but read what catches your interest, and then go from there. Allow it to just evolve in your imagination over time.
Well, this sounds so exciting. Well, Kathleen, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
Thank you, Marianne. It was really fun to speak with you, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Well, thank you, Kathleen. It has been such an honor to spend this time with you and to talk about how to live and invest overseas. Make sure to visit Kathleen's website, liveandinvestoverseas.com, for more information and be part of her community. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. You've been listening to Moments with Marianne, where we make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.